Hey everyone, I have read your discussion board posts and have given you feedback in the rubric that's associated with it in the discussion board. I really enjoy reading this discussion board because it tells me a lot about what you have thought about your experiences in some of your coursework that requires metacognition or the use of self-reflection through the affective domain. Lots of really good insights, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness in your approach to this. One of your classmates did a really nice job of connecting the idea of self-reflection with our biblical worldview. Um, let's see, it was Bonnie that wrote. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 3 through 4, scripture shares that if anyone thinks himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one examine his own work. This scripture reminds me of the importance of looking inward at myself. Through self-reflection, I will be able to develop a deeper understanding of my own actions and thoughts. While I have learned so much knowledge related to theory, research, clinical practice, educational theory, and health policy and ethics, I have also learned so much about who I am as a nurse. Furthermore, I have discovered more about who I am in Christ and what my role is as a professional, which I feel will be most beneficial to assisting me to be an effective nurse educator who creates meaningful learning opportunities for others. I love that Bonnie added that last component of it, what it means to be a nurse educator who creates meaningful learning opportunities for others. And I do believe that a critical step in our ability to create meaningful opportunities for our students is to first be self-aware. We need to be adept at self-reflection. We need to know where our strengths and weaknesses are. We need to critically appraise our own knowledge base, our own approaches, our own emotional responses to things, so that when we engage with our students, we're balanced. We're fairly well regulated. So I appreciate Bonnie's approach to that. So many good insights with this assignment, so I'm really pleased with that. From an APA standpoint, I want to call your attention to the evil DOI. Many of you, when you started your MSN program, the DOI was just coming up on the stage, and it began to be required for inclusion with article citations. Well, now, because the DOI wasn't complicated enough, now we're going to make it a little bit more complicated. So let me just kind of refresh you on how you're going to see a DOI. Anytime that you approach an article, there should be a DOI associated with it. This DOI is a unique identifier of where this article can be located within a digital database. So, typically a DOI, lowercase d, lowercase o, lowercase I, colon, and then the number, which is normally a mix of numbers and letters, would follow right after your page numbers. If there isn't a DOI, if you don't find one, before you do the next step, I want you to go back to your journal article and then your primary journal and make sure that you are using a scholarly peer-reviewed source. If it is a scholarly peer-reviewed source and you're certain that you have a good source and just for some reason it doesn't have DOIs associated with it, then your next option is, if there's not a defined DOI, you're going to use the hyperlink from the database that you locate the article in. You're going to copy the hyperlink and you're going to put that in your reference list in the same place that the original DOI would be. You're going to notice that if you drop that entire hyperlink from the database, it's going to be 5 or 6 lines. I'm going to encourage you to back that up, delete probably about 2/3 of it up to the database. You want a general idea of where you found that article, but all the encrypted coding is not necessary. It's basically just a way of kind of duct taping away to say, okay, this article doesn't have a DOI and this is sort of where I found it. It's not a fabulous solution, but it's the one that's being recommended by the APA Society. So if there's not a DOI, you're sure it's a scholarly source, copy the hyperlink from the database that you found the article, drop it into your reference list, and delete up until you find the database. Normally it's EBSCO, CINAHL, Ovid, wherever it is, just back it up to there. Now, because again, it's not more complex, it needs to be more complicated. They are now creating hyperlinks. So they, instead of just a DOI colon and a numbers and letters series, now they are putting an HTTP or I think it's a colon, and then the DOI. That's when they have made the DOI a URL. They've hyperlinked it, which is fabulous because we are dealing so much with virtual sources. So when they put the HTTP in front of it, they create a hyperlink where you can click and it will automatically take you to the article, which was the original intent of the DOI series when they started it anyway. So if you have an HTTP hyperlink for your DOI, you're going to do your page numbers, a period, and then just put in the HTTP and the hyperlink. You do not have to put retrieved from or DOI colon. It's just the hyperlink. So now that you're getting ready to graduate, you're going to be an expert at DOI and nobody will care. Except when you publish a formal paper in a fabulous peer-reviewed article or journal, your DOIs will be correct. And you'll be able to say it was because you went to Liberty. A girl can dream. Okay, so that's your APA tutorial for the week. The other thing, I did read all of your intros to the course. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that. I have to admit, when I read, I think it was Maggie's personal introduction about her Craigslist kitten, I think his name was Eden, I think Aridin. I got so tickled because unless you've ever gotten a pet from Craigslist, you don't know the experience. So at some point in the next 8 weeks, you will see Gracie, the little beagle. You can see Madeline over my left shoulder, but Gracie is the little beagle, and you will invariably hear her running around, tearing apart the house, behaving a fool. She was a Craigslist puppy. Most expensive free dog I have ever had in my life. So Maggie, I'm with you there with the Craigslist experience. God bless you and God love you for rescuing a little one from that environment. So again, appreciate you guys putting in your introductions, and several of you put photos. You guys are some very pretty people with some very pretty kids. Very interesting to know that sometimes we have courses that everybody lands up on the East Coast, but we have people all up and down the East Coast in the course. We have someone's in Idaho, there's California, Texas. Adriana's in the very bottom of Texas. We pretty much have the entire continent, the United States covered. So we will have all sorts of interesting discussions about everybody's weather as we move through spring. I think somebody said they were still at 32 degrees, and here it was 90 something the other day. But the great thing about Virginia weather is if you don't like it, wait 5 minutes, it will be something different. Okay, let's talk about next week. You have another discussion board that you're going to cover the copyright laws, fair use, and the TEACH Act. All of those are vital for you to know as an educator who will be using commonly available public sources. You need to know what's legally allowed from a copyright standpoint, what is infringing on somebody else's copyright laws, and what that means for you as an educator. Ignorance is not an excuse, so we want to really make sure you're well informed about these policies before you enter into practice. The other thing that you're going to start doing is you're going to start your part 1 of 3 parts for your portfolio. The portfolio is really straightforward. It's embedded in Blackboard. The only thing I'm going to remind you is make sure that when you're done being fabulous and you've got your portfolio part 1 done, go into Blackboard and submit it. It's not enough to just get it done in Blackboard and walk away. You've got to hit the submit button. If you do not properly submit it, I won't be able to grade it and you will not earn credit for that. So you don't want to make that mistake. Make sure you do your portfolio, go into the assignment tab just like you do every other assignment, and submit it. There's a button in there that you click and it connects the back end of Blackboard together so I can view your portfolio. The other thing I want to remind you is that you need to be thinking about your integrative literature review. That's going to be coming next week with week 3 for part 1. Part 1 is so important for you to get right. And if you don't get it right, you're going to have to redo it before you can do part 2, because if you don't have it correct, you can't do part 2 effectively. I want you to spend some time thinking about what are you passionate about in your role as an educator and what do you want to know more about. we'll talk more about the details next week, but right now I want you to spend a little bit of time, do a PubMed search, do an EBSCO search. Not too fond of Google Scholar, but for quick and dirty, that's okay too. Spend some time looking at topics that you are interested in and something that you want to know more about. And then when we get into next week, we'll talk more about how you're going to frame a research question and what that looks like as you work through the integrative literature review process. Your topic needs to be specific to your role as a nurse educator. It should not be a healthcare topic. It should not be a health disease topic. It should be specific to your role as a nurse educator. So I want you to use that lens when you're looking and be able to kind of think critically about what that looks like when you're doing an integrative literature review. I think that's all of my notes, I think. Yep, that's it. I will be in touch if anything else changes. Please know that you are welcome to reach out to me at any time if you need something. The Ask the Professor link are for general questions. Please use that effectively. If you have questions about where do I find or where can I locate this or when is this going to happen, those types of everybody could know questions, put those in the Ask the Professor link. Personal questions about your grade, your own experience, something that's very personal, send those to me by email. Please don't double dip. If you do one, don't do the other, because then I get confused and I'm not sure which direction you want me to respond. Pick one and pick the appropriate venue. Know that I'm here. I know that this is your last course and you guys are ready for it to be your last course. So let's make this a good course. Let's have fun with it and enjoy the experience. I will be praying for you. I hope you guys had a great week. I will see you soon. Take care.